Good morning. Welcome to the Kila Chari Torah Halacha Review for Wednesday, February 10th. We're talking about reading the Megillah. Here's a list of customs during the Megillah reading. One that you know very well, making noise at the mention of Haman. It's the custom to pound on the table, stamp on the floor, or grog your groggers when hearing the name of Haman read in order to remember the instruction that we're going to read on the Shabbos before Purim. Remember the instruction to erase Haman's name. Right? We're supposed to blot out the name of Haman, so we do that. The reader reads, and we make noise to drown out Haman's name, the name of Amalek. The Baal Korah should pause during the noise so that no one will miss any of the words. Care should be taken to stop the noise in time for the reader to resume the reading, since otherwise people might miss hearing the words. We don't want that. There are 4 verses that refer to pivotal points around the miracle of Purim, and they are read aloud first by the listeners and then repeated by the reader. These are one in chapter 2, one in chapter 2 of them in chapter 8, and one in chapter 10. I'll tell you what those are. So if you have a Megillah Esther, you can look at these. If you have a Chumash, it's in the back. One of those is chapter 2, verse 5. There was a Jewish man in Shushan, the capital, whose name was Mordechai, son of Yair, son of Shimi, son of Kish, a Benjaminite. Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Abira, Shmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimi ben Kish Ish Yemini. That's one. And remember, the reader's going to pause, and we're going to say these out of our Chumash or text, whatever we're following, and then the reader will repeat them. The next one is chapter 8, verse 15. Mordechai left the king's presence, clad in royal apparel of turquoise and white, with a large gold crown and a robe of fine linen and purple. Then the city of Shushan was cheerful and glad. Mordechai yatsa milifnei hamelech bilevush malchut tcheles v'chur v'ateres zahav gedola v'sachrich butz v'argaman v'ha'ir Shushan tzahala v'samecha. One you'll recognize from Havdalah, from Saturday nights. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. Also chapter 8, verse 16. La Yehudim haisa ora v'simcha v'sason v'yikar. And the last one we'll read is at the end of the Megillah, verse 3 from chapter 10. For Mordechai, the Yehudi, the Jew, was viceroy to King Achashverosh. He was a great man among the Jews and found favor with the multitude of his brethren. He sought the good of his people and spoke for the welfare of his seed. Ki Mordechai ha-Yehudi, Mishneh lemelech Achashverosh, v'gadol ha-Yehudim, v'ratza l'rov echav, doresh tov l'amo, dover shalom l'chol zaro. Okay, so keep those in mind. You can put a little pencil check mark next to those if you want, to remember that the reader is going to pause, and our spot then is to read them out loud, and then he'll read. The common custom is for all those present to read the names of the Aseres Bnei Haman, the 10 sons of Haman, and then for the Baal Korah, for the Megillah reader to read them. The names of all the sons are read in one breath to allude to the fact that all 10 sons were killed at the same time. Before the bracha, before making the bracha and reading the Megillah, the Megillah reader first unfurls the entire Megillah and folds the scroll over on itself in a pile like a long letter, because in verse 29 of chapter 9, the Megillah refers to itself as this letter of Purim, Igeres ha-Purim azos. This calls attention to the miracle. Those listening to the reader don't have to do this, even if they're reading along in a whisper from the Megillah. In addition, even one reading for a Megillah for a group fewer than 10 need not first unroll it. Some have the custom to unfold the Megillah in these situations as well. We are usually not supposed to touch the parchment of a Torah scroll directly with our hands, but we are allowed to touch the parchment of a Megillah. It doesn't have the same level of Kedusha same level of sanctity as a Torah scroll. Some, however, are stringent and wash their hands before touching a Megillah. Very good practice. Okay, let's talk about something very important for this year, and with that, we'll pause for today. Phone, microphone, and hearing aid. There's extensive conversation amongst the the latter-day halachic authorities, if you will. There's an extensive discussion amongst poskim whether or not sound waves that are electronically converted by means of a telephone, a microphone, hearing aids, or the like are the same as hearing the sound for its source. One should be stringent not to hear the Megillah in this manner, and I'm going to add, if at all possible. If that's the only way you can hear, it's the only way you can hear. So therefore, he writes, those who cannot physically come to the shul to hear the Megillah reading and are unable to have someone read for them should read the Megillah to themselves. If this is not possible, they should try to hear the Megillah reading over the phone from a live reading elsewhere, and in this way they will fulfill the mitzvah, at least according to some of the poskim. Okay, one who cannot hear the Megillah reading without a hearing aid should read the Megillah to himself from a kosher Megillah if possible. In addition, one should not listen to the Megillah being read over an amplifier or speaker system. If one finds himself in a shul that uses a microphone, best practice would be to try to stand close enough to the Megillah reader so that you can hear the words directly as they are being read rather than through any artificial system. Now, all this, I just want to underscore here for you the language of should and if at all possible, and if it's not physically possible, and should, and so on. In other words, there are a number of those who say that we can, in fact, fulfill the mitzvah through a microphone, through Zoom, through telephone, anything like that. Obviously, not the best possible solution. This past year, has not been necessarily the year of doing things in the most desired and most halachically ideal fashion possible. I think we all understand what's happening. So thankfully, we preserve all the rulings of Jewish law, and we appreciate those who say that even though it's not desirable, perhaps not the best, the choicest way of doing a mitzvah, one can in fact hear the Megillah read through Zoom, through telephone, or through other such means. Let's distinguish, I don't want to split the hairs too finely here, but I think it is important to distinguish between hearing a recording and hearing a live broadcast via phone or iPhone, or FaceTime or Zoom or some other electronic medium. As it's happening, you're listening in real time to a Megillah reading happening, and usually what we'll try to do here in Shul, if we're allowed to do it, is to convene a minyan here in Shul. So if you're listening to the Megillah reading from KST here, you'll hear it being read aloud by actual live people with a minyan. You'll be hearing it over the phone or over Zoom, but you'll be able to hear it read with a minyan. So that is the best we can do for many of us who, for health reasons, should not be venturing out to be with the Kehillah, unfortunately, this year. Hopefully next year, L'Shana Haba, we'll be able to fulfill all the mitzvahs in the choicest, most desirable, most advantageous means possible, all of us together in good health. Until such a time, we're going to keep doing our best. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. Let me just remind you that Friday is Rosh Chodesh. So tomorrow we'll talk about Rosh Chodesh. Bye.